Hello, everybody. Welcome to Teliax and the Toll-Free Exchange webinar. We got some exciting stuff to share with you today, but I wanted to start off with a little housekeeping. If you have any questions, please use the questions box in the GoToWebinar control panel. A handful of us are monitoring that, and we'll try and get to your question or get it to the right person as quickly as possible. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to David Aldworth, CEO of Teliax. Take it away, David.
Thanks, Kerry. Can everybody hear me okay? Can you hear me okay, Kerry?
Yeah.
Great. And I assume you can all see the screen. This says Toll-Free Exchange on it right now.
Yes, we can.
All right, good deal. Well, welcome everyone. Thanks for joining. We're pretty excited about some developments in partnership with our good friends over at RouteTrust. Today, we're just going to introduce some of these new features that bring a 360-degree capability to toll-free number management, routing, and peering. So let me just jump right into the presentation. We're going to do a really quick, very basic review of what it takes in order to manage toll-free numbers today, given the tools that are available to us. Okay, so what are the most basic requirements to provision toll-free numbers without a reseller? What do I mean when I say without a reseller? The majority of enterprises and service providers today are going to be interconnected and using somebody like Lumen, IntelliQuint, Bandwidth, one of the larger named resellers. I say resellers of toll-free because the truth of the matter is most of us know that Somos is the toll-free numbering authority in the United States. They have tariff number 1 with the FCC. And if you want access to toll-free numbering resources, then you need access to Somos, or you need access to somebody with access to Somos. So fundamental provision of toll-free is access to Somos. And really, this is the piece that we're going to go over today. What else do you need? Well, having a toll-free number that's assigned to you doesn't do you any good unless you can actually connect to the publicly switched telephone network. And typically in the back office, that requires having some sort of connectivity to an inter-exchange carrier. In the United States, we refer to them as the oligopoly. You've got AT&T, Verizon, and Lumen. But we're going to talk about how we simplify that and actually eliminate the need for you to go directly to those guys today. Well, you need to manage your toll-free numbers. What do I mean when I say manage toll-free numbers? Well, a big one for all of you is porting. How do you port your numbers? How do you take the numbers from another carrier, bring them over to your service? And if somebody wants to port a number out, how do you manage that process? We're going to talk about that a little bit. Another big one is reporting. How do you know how many toll-free numbers you've got, what they are, where they're going? Another big one is routing. I mentioned earlier how you get the call in from the PSTN. Okay, great, that's the connectivity portion. But then what about routing that call into your network? How do you get access to multiple SIP trunks? How do you get access to being able to do 10-digit control if you want a number to come in now, if you want to move it over to a different RESTborg ID, if you want to move it to a different SIP trunk, if you want to block that number? These are all routing functionalities that are necessary. Next big one is billing. How do you manage the billing? You're going to get charged on a per number basis, potentially. You're going to get charged on a per minute basis. There may be other charges that are associated. How do you get in there and mediate? How do you get access to call detail records? How do you report that to your customers as well as mediate your own invoices? It's a big challenge in managing toll-free numbers. But these are fundamental. How can we improve on what is available today? A big one is having everything work in real time. When you add a number, you want it to be able to work immediately. When you change routing on a number, you want to be able to see that happen immediately. Today, there's a lot of challenge and delay with things like 10-digit loads, things like getting translations to update, etc. Everything that we're going to show you today is real time. A lot of you, especially on the enterprise side, you need insight, you need analytics. So you want some sort of a dashboard to give you the ability to see what's happening in your network with your numbers in real time, of course, but then to do the analysis on that so that you can forecast, so that you can decide if there's excess, things that you can do in order to streamline your processes or your inventory or your routing. Okay, and lastly, sorry, peering, of course, the big one for the toll-free exchange. Peering is what the toll-free exchange was originally created for. As you know, most people on this call, I think, are either existing toll-free exchange participants, or you've at least heard about what the toll-free exchange does. But the toll-free exchange essentially brings peering into the mix very quickly. I won't spend a ton of time on this slide. By all means, reach out if you want more info. But the bottom half of this infographic, that bottom half tile there shows the old way of routing toll-free numbers into your network, where calls come from, say, a mobility customer to a mobility provider. They get routed to a tandem, to a long distance carrier, otherwise known as an IXC, down to a responsible organization, and then finally through to the end user, which may be you or your customer. The top way is the way the toll-free exchange does it, which is that we simply peer the calls between responsible organizations. We allow the calls to come in directly to the toll-free exchange, pass through directly to another responsible organization. There's no 10-digit routing requirement. There is enabled to the toll-free exchange, but it is not a requirement. So any numbers associated to your REST-Borg ID immediately start routing to you, and you can do that with other responsible organizations, having those calls never go through the PSTN. So it provides a lot of features. Obviously, it reduces points of failure, it increases quality, reduces the potential for fraud, but perhaps the biggest value is the reduction in expense and the increase in compensation. Just sidebar, next month is the third of 3 step downs where originating access reform, which is going to impact a lot of our pocketbooks, because the FCC has decided to rate cap all tandem switching as well as database query rates. So there's just less money to be paid out. Meanwhile, the interexchange carriers, to the best of my knowledge, really haven't lowered their expense. So it's kind of a big windfall for the IXCs. Well, there is no IXC in the toll-free exchange. So that leaves more of the money on the table for you to receive for your outbound toll-free traffic, and it reduces your expense on traffic you receive. So it's both a revenue generator as well as an expense reduction at the exact same time, and it is completely unaffected by anything that's happening at the FCC, because this is considered a computer service by the FCC. It is not considered a what is it called, a Title II utility. So yeah, that's the big one. Okay. So in a minute, we're going to show you these things, but just to break it down in sort of a visual here, what I went over earlier is the basic requirements of toll-free number management. You see those here. I already went over all of the rows here on the left column, but the toll-free exchange, as you can see in the second column, the RouteTrust in the third column there, what's being enabled by each of these platforms for you. And what this gives you in total is 360-degree toll-free number management, from acquiring the numbers to routing the numbers to peering the numbers to mediating the numbers to analyzing all of your traffic. Between these two integrated platforms, you're getting everything in one. Okay. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Chris, who is from RouteTrust, who is going to do a very quick demo of the integrated RouteTrust portal to the toll-free exchange, and give you a brief overview of what you're going to be able to do with the new functionality that we've added. Chris, do you have the ability to share your screen?
Yes, thank you. Just confirm that you guys can now see it.
I can see it.
Thank you. All right. Well, thanks, David, for the intro. And we're really excited about the partnership and to the opportunity to show some of the features with this integration that we've configured. So it's a web login. It's all also potentially API based if any are interested in that avenue. But everything that you'll see today is accessible via the web or via API. Once you log in, you'll get a dashboard that will show you your particular information. So you'll be assigned a ResPorg ID, and that ResPorg ID is where all of your numbers will be mapped to and provisioned from. And it'll the dashboard will show you any information that you need to take action on based on the numbers within your ResPorg ID. So we're going to go over a couple quick tools that are universal. We're pretty proud of this global search tool up at the top. You can throw in pretty much anything from a template name, ResPorg name, to a toll-free number, and it'll pull back that information. So I'll just give you an example there. Let's do 800, 200, 234. And it'll tell you, okay, who owns this number. You can click on that and provide the history of the number, which ResPorg ID currently owns that number. So this will work from if you need to look up a number or need to look up anything, this global search tool is pretty useful. And it's fixed at the top here. Next, we wanted to review first. Let's say you want new numbers. So we're going to go on the toll-free module on the left. Let's say we want to do a search and reserve. So this is a new number. Maybe you have a customer that needs a vanity number. I always like to throw pizza in here, and this will query the current available numbers in the Somos database that are available for you to choose. Take a minute here to come back, and once it does, I think I've got one that finished here. It'll come back and it'll look like this. It'll tell you the matched pattern with the alphanumeric and the actual numeric number. If you find one that you like for your customer, you can do a reserve, and reserve will hold this number on the ResPorg for 45 days, unless you do a reserve and activate. Reserve and activate will give you the option to tell which template that you want to activate the number on. And the template's the core of the routing instructions of how the number is going to be routed. So that's a quick high level on search and reserve. Now let's say you just need a bulk set of numbers. There's a couple ways to do that. There's a quick launch tool up here at the top. This little plus sign up here gives you some options here. We can reserve by quantity, reserve by list. So let's just say reserve by quantity. It gives you this next option here. It says, let's look at these different patterns. What are the NPAs that you want to choose? And then we have the option in the pattern section here. We support wildcards as well as ampersands, which are it's a different way of pulling numbers that are in the row. So like duplicate numbers like 99, 22, 11, etc. Once you do a search and reserve, this will all show up underneath the tasks menu. And you'll be able to see the task menu is really kind of an audit trail of any kind of searching, reserving, number rerouting. We'll go into number groups as well, because that's an important tool. But this is this tasks menu allows you to audit anything that's been done by username. And it's also where you can create a new task as well. So this is the second way of doing a search and reserve. Create new task. You can reserve by quantity. Select again the NPAs in the pattern. Once you hit bulk reserve, you can label the task, and then the numbers will show up. Let's see. The next important thing that we want to review is what David mentioned is how do you manage porting in and porting out, what's called ROC or ResPorg change requests. So there's a tool under the toll-free module called ResPorg change request. This will list the current incoming and outgoing REST port changes for your team to review. And here you can go in and audit each of the REST port change requests. This one's already moved, but in this case, what you can do is you can either approve or reject these REST port change requests based on invalid signature or customer not, it is not matching on the current toll-free number invoice. But let's say you want to actually bring a number in. What we'll do here is there's two things that we'll need. You can create a letter of agency. So Somos requires an LOA with it's a PDF signature. It's a little bit out of date, but that's the requirement. But we have a tool here where you can create the LOA, you fill in the information, company information, and you add the toll-free numbers. You can create this LOA, and then it'll need a signature by the customer. Once that's created, what you'll do is you'll go to Submit REST port change request, and under REST port change request, you're going to say the new REST port. You're going to select the REST port that's been assigned to you by the toll-free exchange. You'll add the toll-free numbers in this box, and you'll drag in or attach the letter of agency that was filled out. Once you hit submit on this will actually submit the request to Somos, and the losing carrier or REST port ID has 48 business hours to respond to process that request. So we can manage and audit those requests and whether or not they're active in the REST port change section. In addition, we talked about reporting and inventory. We can also track that through the toll-free numbers section here. So we'll click on toll-free numbers. We're going to say search. Those will be all the numbers that are on your REST port ID, and you'll be able to tell that it is on your REST port ID and also which template that it's on. So again, this is good from a inventory and reporting audit perspective. Now we touched on routing a little bit. This is another.
I just want to plan a couple of things I think our audience will be interested in. Is up top, you've got the ability to do things like download it in the spreadsheet, get the information emailed out, copy it to a clipboard. Yeah, all those are really good tools to take into your own analysis.
Excellent point. This should be available, this export should be available on all screens that have a list. So you can copy the numbers to a clipboard. So let's do this real quick. And it'll look like, let's provide a list here of the numbers. And yeah, you can email. So when there are more than 250,000 rows, we have the email, export to email is the only option. Whereas when it's under 250,000 rows, you can export it directly here to Excel or CSV. Okay. We touched briefly on routing. Again, this is going to tell you each number, how it's routed, and a number can be either routed to a template or it can have its own individual routing. And typically, for the most part, it's going to be assigned to a template. So that'll show you the audit of that. What you can also do is, let's say you want to look up how this would route from a particular area. I'm going to copy this toll-free number here. We have a call simulator, and this is useful for when you have templates with multiple carriers and you want to find out who's actually routing this call, who should route this call when it's over the PSTN, when it's not an appeared situation. So I'll put in my phone number, hit simulate. Now this is going to look at the Somos template, and it's going to tell you which kick. In this case, this is Verizon, and it'll tell you this is the current active template. That way, if trouble tickets or anything that's needed to review, you know who should have received the call based on the source number and the toll free. And it can also we can also look this up by template as well.
I just want to add that for the most part, this is transparent to the participants of the toll-free exchange, and that you can look all this information up. Just to give a little bit of a peek behind the curtain, the PSTN provider for the most part is Teliax upstream, right? And you don't need to worry about template manipulation unless you want to, in which case the functionality exists between the two portals the same. Our objective is to try and keep it as simple as possible for you, but also to give you those deep dive tools in the event that that's where you want to take your traffic. And that's what Chris is showing to you here.
Thank you. The next piece I think you touched on, David, was how do you make this seamless? Have that 360 management of the toll-free number. So in the case of what we wanted to do was we wanted to look up a vanity number, in this case pizza, and we wanted to go ahead and reserve and activate it. What we do is we reserve and activate this number, assign it to a template. That's kind of step one. The next step is to activate it on the carriers themselves. And so we have a module which is called Carrier Connect, where we can then take that number and provision it to the carriers via API.
And once again, this is mostly done for you. There's none of the work is necessary, because all of that should be happening, because the RouteTrust Portal has done all of this functionality behind the scenes. So if you're used to the functionality of having to go to Verizon Portfolio or AT&T or use the level 3 Lumen portal, all of that is integrated in the back end. And when you add a number through the portal here, all of that back end 10-digit loading into the various IXCs gets done automatically. All you do at that point is pivot over to the toll-free exchange and tell it where you want the call to route. And I can demo that real quick, Chris. I think that this has been a good overview of the basic functionality that we want to advise this audience of for now. From the basic functionality here being search and reserve a number, manage porting, and be able to get insight into your inventory and number management. But once you grab a number and you got search and reserve, and that next step that Chris was about to do, which was activated onto that template, and that's the only template that you'll have access to unless you request some more advanced functionality. That's it, you're done. And you could do that with one number, you could do that with 1,000 numbers, and you could go back in and you could see all of the numbers and exactly what you've done with them in history, because of what the RouteTrust Portal has exposed through this portal.
All right.
So Chris, if you don't mind, I'm just going to show we only have a few more minutes before I want to transition over to some questions, if there are any questions. And in that last few minutes, I'd like to just show you guys the toll-free exchange portal. Carrie, can you kick it back over to me?
See if that works, David.
Yep, got it.
There we go.
You should have it now.
So yeah, once again, at the risk of being redundant, I know a lot of you are already participating in the toll-free exchange, but for the purposes of this conversation, what we wanted to reveal to you today is that we've added in all of the Somos functionality via the RouteTrust Portal, which means you can go in, you can search, you can grab 100 phone numbers, and click the activate button, and you're done. At that point, the calls are routing to your REST org ID on the SIP trunks on the toll-free exchange. So here, we were messing with the NEX 99, and the reason we're picking on Teliax here is because Teliax is a participant of the toll-free exchange, is a consumer of the RouteTrust Portal. So it is a live. This is a live demo essentially. If Chris had grabbed 1833 pizza, I would have that number now routing in on my NEX 99 responsible organization ID, which is the obviously that is the ID that he was using. Is this? So like Chris could probably talk about the toll-free exchange, about the RouteTrust functionality for a lot longer. I could certainly talk about the toll-free exchange functionality for a long time, but again, we want to keep this fairly high level and simple at this point. The point here being that once that number is activated, you have access to all of the routing on both the terminating side, all of the reporting. Obviously you have like we were harping on, the real-time access to information. All of that is in here. You can actually see live calls as they're routing right now, both inbound or outbound. You can have access to all of your call records. You can go back and you can change how the SIP trunks are working if you want to route calls to different places. You can block based on the 10-digit number. You can change all of your rates. Again, there's lots of responsible organizations that are participating in the toll-free exchange at various rates, all of which exceed the current FCC minimum requirement or price cap, right? Because again, this is a peering service with PSTN functionality now being added. That's really the announcement that we're making here today, is we've added the PSTN functionality to the toll-free exchange, so you can get complete toll-free management in one spot. And your billing, of course, right? So all of your invoices, all of your rating, all of your ability to do your mediation and your reports is in one spot on the toll-free exchange. So whether you're sending or receiving or doing both, you have the ability to see all of those invoices and all of those offsets within the toll-free exchange. And of course, if you only originate traffic, you get paid. If you only terminate traffic, then you only pay. But if you terminate and originate traffic to the toll-free exchange, then there's an offsetting amount and you only pay the difference or receive the difference, whatever that may be. I did talk a little bit about the 10-digit routing. I think it's important to note that you do still have, if you need the ability to do 10-digit routing, you do still have that ability through the toll-free exchange. We're eliminating most of that through the use of the centralized data point that is the responsible organization ID. But if you still want it, it's still there, and you can do so in bulk through the upload feature. With that, and at the 30-minute mark, we really did want to limit this to about 30 minutes in the interest of time. I'd like to open it up for any questions that you guys may have on this new functionality that we've added. Carrie, can you open the
Yeah, we currently do not have any questions. We'll give it a moment to see if anybody wants to ask anything. Please use the questions box, not the chat. We don't really see that in the chat. But if you have anything, just use the questions box and we will get it answered for you. David or Chris, can you think of any thing that customers may ask that we didn't cover?
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, I could. Am I still sharing my screen? I think I am. Here, hold on. I'll go back over here. I did have a couple of what I thought might be some questions that folks would want to ask.
Before you get going on that, David, Brett's asking, he said he missed the first part, and I was going to ask this as well. Is there any cost associated with this new functionality?
No, there is not. You do need, however, to have a responsible organization ID. If you already have one through Somos, fantastic. If you already have one assigned through a third party, like ATI, fantastic. If you need one, then we can assign one to you that will be a sub REST-Borg ID of the Teliax NE entity. Teliax is sort of the back office plumbed into the PSTN and into Somos that provides the default PSTN connectivity. Of course, it does nothing in terms of peering, because peering is between you and your peering partner. But if you need a REST-Borg ID, then we'll assign one to you, and you can then use that REST-Borg. Then we will provision that REST-Borg ID into the RouteTrust integrated portal, and then from that point forward, you're off to the races. There's nothing further that you need from us in order to grab numbers and route them to your switch.
Okay. Can customers still get this stuff from us like they've been doing in the past, or do they have to start using the new portal?
No, absolutely not. Do you have to use that? I'm not sure I understand the question entirely. So if you're a Teliax customer, Teliax will continue to provide service from you. If you're your own responsible organization and you're using the toll-free exchange, then nothing changes there. The point here is that if you wish to use the integration to make your life easier from a 360-degree toll-free management aspect, then we do have that capability now added into the toll-free exchange.
Okay, I think that answered the question there. I think we're good on questions for the moment. If you wanted to continue with where you were going, David.
Yeah, so next question that I had thought up ahead of time was, do I need to manage numbers at the 10-digit level? And the answer is no. So, for 40, almost 50 years, the way the toll-free has worked is that if you went to Verizon or Lumen or AT&T and you asked them to provide you with toll-free service, you could use the Somos complex routing record, otherwise known as the CPR, in order to originate your calls from these various carriers. But in order for that to work, you had to manually or in some systematic way load your 10-digit numbers into their portals. We eliminate that completely by using this integration with the toll-free exchange. So you simply go to the RouteTrust integration, you add your numbers, and you're done. There is no 10-digit loading. From that point forward, everything is managed by REST-Borg ID. And if you need more than one REST-Borg ID in order to manage them separately, that's not a problem. You can still do that. But it's that centralized data point of REST-Borg ID that enables, or rather eliminates, any 10-digit routing requirement. Porting, Chris talked about this. I don't think I really need to go into much more detail. It's the REST-Borg change process, otherwise known as ROC. You'll do that through the toll-free exchange portal. Porting is all automated through that portal. It submits directly to Somos. Changes typically happen pretty quickly. Part of what I want to do with this FAQ is if you guys have questions that are going to get added to this going forward. So by all means, if there's thoughts you have, such as the first question, which was, is there additional cost? The answer is no. We'll add that in here for the next presentation that we do. But with that, are there any other questions anybody has?
How soon can we get started using this?
Well, it's about 10:30 here, so maybe 11.
Yeah, Brett,
in all seriousness, it's all set up and it's ready. So just reach out to your rep, and we'll get you. How quickly can you get started? I guess in fact, I shouldn't be so cavalier about that comment. The truth of it is that we need to assign you a REST-Borg ID if you don't already have one. Unfortunately, Somos still manages that approval process, so we just submit it. Once that REST-Borg ID is assigned to your entity, and when I say assigned to your entity, your name shows up, not Teliax, not anything else. It is your REST-Borg ID. It is a sub of our entity, but it's yours to use with your billing information, your address, your contact info, your name. But again, once that's in there, we load that into the RouteTrust integration, and then we hand over the keys to you. It's got full user scoping, which means that your login will get you access to your REST-Borg ID and the ability to grab numbers and all that kind of stuff. So I would say in all reality, if you said, I want to use this right now, go. We would get some information from you, and it would probably take a day or two. Again, the limitation is just Sonos checking the box and saying, okay, here's your sub ID, and then you're done. You can start using it. Good question.
Okay, I think we're good.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, Chris, very much for your time, and the other RouteTrust folks who are, on the call. I appreciate all the hard work that's gone into this, and I appreciate your assistance today. If you have any other questions or you need any information, reach out to myself or Carrie, or whomever your toll-free exchange representative is, or just submit a ticket to help at tollfree.exchange, or just go sign up. Again, the toll-free exchange is completely self-service. Tollfree.exchange, register for service, and you're off to the races. And we'll help get you enabled on anything else that you need to get enabled on, and then it is completely driven by you from that point forward. Thanks everybody for joining.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time, and we'll be hopefully hearing from you soon.